you wouldn't know it at first glance, but you are watching a murderer in action. People walking the streets of London with luggage isn't an uncommon sight, but what Gemma Mitchell's carrying in this particular case is not just unusual, it's downright disturbing. The Australian woman has just cut up her friend and is on her way to dump the body.
Despicable. Very sad. I don't use the word evil very often, but for someone like Gemma Mitchell, I think it's probably a fairly apt description.
The victim was her friend from a church group, Mi Kuen Chong, known as Deborah. It might seem an open and shut case, but this brazen murder has now taken an entirely bewildering turn, with the killer's mum mounting an extraordinary bid to have the conviction overturned. In the eyes of the law, your daughter is a murderer.
Yeah, I know.
Do you believe she's a killer?
Hell, definitely not. There is just no two ways about it. Gemma is innocent.
But tonight, we expose the damning evidence that saw this 38-year-old jailed for life, as her former friends in Australia revealed the signs that evil was lurking all along. Did you get the sense Gemma was troubled?
Yes, I did. Obviously, the eyes, they never lie. And something with Gemma, that's probably the most relevant thing that always comes to me. The eyes, they never lie.
It mightn't be much to look at, but this dilapidated house in northwest London is both the reason Gemma Mitchell packed her bags for England and her motivation for murder. First, let's deal with the relocation. Back in 2015, the Melbourne woman moved here so she could be closer to her mum, Hilary Collard. What kind of girl was she?
She was lovely. She was adorable. They made her out to be a monster. She is the kindest. She would do anything for her grandparents. She just adored them. Look what has been left here. And it's a bedroom.
The house they called home was worth an eye-watering $7 million. Yet still, money was a huge issue for Hilary and her daughter. They urgently needed cash because the property was falling apart and needed extensive repair work. Gemma wanted to help with reconstruction costs, but couldn't contribute financially because she wasn't licensed to operate in the UK as an osteopath, so was out of work. Instead, she offered to become a spiritual healer for a woman she recently befriended at church, Deborah Chong, who was battling several health issues.
The victim here was quite a vulnerable woman. She was very vulnerable, absolutely. Eccentric but pleasant, friendly. She had lots of problems in her life.
Stuart Gibbon is a former British detective and says Gemma Mitchell was not helping Deborah out of the goodness of her heart. Eventually, she convinced her new friend to give her $350,000 to help with building costs at the family home. But at the last minute, Deborah reneged. Investigators say this was Gemma's motivation for murder. She was enraged, and Deborah was fearful, even sending her a text message saying, "Until you've sold the house, I don't want you to come to me. I'm stressed to my core." 3 days later, Deborah disappeared.
It's just a catastrophe, and one which is motivated by greed and by a person who just, if she wants everything and if she can't have it, she'll get it somehow.
The first thing Gemma does after the murder is try to cover her tracks, making several calls to missing persons agencies, feigning concern for her supposed friend. But then came the major breakthrough. Investigators uncovering CCTV footage that showed what Gemma had really been up to. It's extraordinarily naive in a city like London to not realise you're going to be caught by so many CCTV cameras.
It's hugely naive. most capital cities in the world have got lots of cameras. London, I think, is probably the second highest after China. There's something like 950,000 cameras in London. If you were to go out in London somewhere and wander around, the average person would probably be captured about 70 times on a camera somewhere. There are just cameras everywhere. So CCTV evidence really is kind of overwhelming, because you've not just got her on camera, which is indisputable, but you've also got her actions.
On the morning of June 11, Gemma is captured leaving the family home just after 6 a.m. with a suitcase. Half an hour later, she's seen several streets away in a different outfit plus a beanie and face mask, heading towards Deborah's house. At 1 p.m, she's seen leaving Deborah's property with a distinctly heavier case. She spends 3 hours carrying the luggage through suburban London before returning to her home just after 4 p.m. 15 days later, Gemma hires a Volvo SUV and is seen on camera again, struggling to load the suitcase into the vehicle. That night, her car is filmed driving down a remote road 3 hours from London, and it's from here that police get a call from a concerned member of the public the very next day.
Emergency. Okay. Hi, can you find a body? Oh, go ahead, caller. What's your emergency? I just found a body. Right, okay. A body, is it? Are they breathing? No, they're dead. They look like they've possibly been there like a few days or something. Right, right, okay. Bear me a second.
The missing persons case became a homicide investigation, with police setting up a crime scene in the town of Salcombe in Devon, southwest England. Soon after, detectives obtained the critical CCTV footage showing Gemma Mitchell near the victim's house and where the body was dumped. Not long after, she was arrested.
It's Gemma, do you want to come up? Yeah, sure. Alright. Hand just over your hands. Alright, Gemma, at this moment, I'm arresting you on suspicion of murder. Okay, you don't have to say anything, but you may hold a defence, do a mention question, saying which you later rely in court. Anything you do say may be given evidence, okay? Once you're in your cuffs. I'll explain everything to you. Okay? Should I get some shoes?
If police knock on your door and you've genuinely had nothing to do with the crime, I feel like you'd say to them, oh, sorry, what are you arresting me for? But in this case, Gemma just says, oh, yeah, I'll go get my shoes.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with you. I know what my reaction would be if somebody come and arrested me for murder. My first question would be, who am I supposed to have murdered? And secondly, can you tell me a bit more about this? And I'd be pretty angry and upset and distraught about it as well. It's all matter of fact. And then it's, can I put my shoes on? And, all very matter of fact, almost like, well, there we go. It's one of those things.
The person driving the Volvo.
Back at the station, Gemma doesn't cooperate with the investigation, particularly questions about the hire car she took to Devon.
The car stank, didn't it, Gemma? Stunk of a dead person.
No comment.
Stunk of Deborah's decomposing body. Is that right, Gemma?
No comment.
But in spite of the mountain of evidence against her, Gemma's mum Hilary is adamant her daughter isn't responsible for the killing, and you won't believe her bizarre theory for what really happened.
Gemma will be very upset to think that you think that she is definitely a murderer. She'll be very upset about that.
A lot of history has been made at London's criminal court, the Old Bailey, dating back to the 1500s. Last year, Melbourne woman Gemma Mitchell made history here of her own, becoming the first woman to have her sentencing broadcast live on television, convicted of murdering her friend Deborah Chong.
The sentence of the court is one of life imprisonment, and the minimum term of imprisonment that you will in any event be required to serve will be 34 years. You have shown absolutely no remorse, and it appears that you are in complete denial as to what you did.
And it appears she's not the only one in complete denial.
How do you think Deborah died?
She either committed suicide or she tripped over and couldn't get up. That's what we reckon happened.
Hilary Collard is Gemma's mother and refuses to believe her daughter is a killer, despite so much evidence pointing to that being the case. A jury found Gemma had used a suitcase to help dispose of her victim Deborah Chong's body. But Hilary claims to have seen the contents of Gemma's luggage with her own eyes. And this is where things get truly bizarre.
I saw what went in that suitcase. I didn't see her put it actually into the car, but I saw she had like 3 bottles of 5 kilo waters. She had tins in case she wanted to stop to eat something. She had a deck chair. She had a sun umbrella.
All in the suitcase?
Yeah, that's it. It was like she squashed what she could in the suitcase.
And so why was she going to Devon? What did she tell you?
She just said she wants to go to Devon. I mean, it's a shame I wasn't with her.
You say you saw Gemma pack her suitcase to go to Salcombe that day. Have you ever worried that perhaps you might be charged as an accessory to this murder or somehow being complicit in it all?
No, because I've had nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing to do with it. I mean, I saw the suitcase when she came back from Deborah's house, when she was supposed to have murdered her. And all there was in it was a saucepan, some kitchen utensils, there was some towels, there were tins, there were books. They were all heavy things, but there wasn't a body in there.
If you go by the police version of events here and what the court found, you're lying.
The police are completely corrupt.
There's CCTV footage of Gemma driving down the very street where Deborah's body was found. Do you think this is just the greatest coincidence in the history of mankind?
Exactly.
Disturbingly, when Deborah's body was discovered, she had been surgically decapitated. Interestingly, on the website for Gemma's old osteopathy business in Melbourne, she detailed how she studied at the prestigious King's College in London, where she learned how to dissect human cadavers.
When I first met Gemma, or when she first come along, she gave me a bit of a feel of the movie The Hand That Rocks the Cradle with Rebecca De Mornay. It's about that neighbour who you probably can't fully trust 150% and maybe just gives you a little bit of a vibe.
To get a proper understanding of this killer's mindset, we need to go back a few years to when she called Melbourne home.
We welcomed Gemma into our home. We got to know Gemma pretty well. Over time, I guess we kind of picked up that she was having some issues.
Right, okay.
Nick Novichevsky lived opposite Gemma in the suburb of Altona North, but after a few years, she decided to sell up and move to London. Nick says financial issues always brought out the worst in Gemma, and these were a big factor when she decided to leave town.
Did you get the sense Gemma was troubled?
Yes, I did. You know, sometimes I could just see her drift off. The best way to describe it, particularly when she was down, she looked down.
Did she tell you why she was selling?
She was very stressed.
So was the stress money?
The stress was money. The stress was all about finances.
Back in England, police are convinced money was the motivation for Gemma Mitchell to kill her friend Deborah Chong as well. She's now serving life behind bars, but her mum Hilary is visiting her regularly in prison and says she's planning an appeal.
There's not much stronger in life than a mother's love. Is it possible that you just are incapable of believing that your daughter is a killer?
She's not a killer. I know she's not. I mean, I know you don't believe me, but I'm telling you that Gemma did not commit this crime.
For the family of Deborah to hear all these details, both during the police investigation and afterwards during the court case, you just can't imagine it. It's just so awful.
For veteran detective Stuart Gibbon, there's only one victim in all of this, and it sure as hell isn't Gemma Mitchell. He hopes her mother, Hilary Collard, can come to her senses soon.
Gemma and her mum are adamant that she is innocent and that this is a miscarriage of justice. Do you think that is plausible? I don't think there's any chance of it being a miscarriage of justice. As I say, the evidence is overwhelming, and it's probably one of the strongest cases I've seen in many a year. When you put it all together, the jury deliberated for 7 hours, which for a murder case really isn't very long. 7 hours is a very, very short period of time for a jury to deliberate over what was a particularly grotesque murder.
Hi, I'm Tom.